Lucian, you told right?
You did.
morning, everyone. Say again, and Air Community Board 1 said, please, as a housekeeping rule, these cameras do move and pick up everything in the room. And so please just watch what you say and also be respectful of the people talking. I just would like to welcome everyone to, my name is Tevin Williams. I am the Director of Community and External Affairs. I work for Congressman Dan Goldman. I'm part of his staff here in the district, and I would like to welcome everyone to our Manhattan CB1 Resiliency Town Hall. Thank you for coming in collaboration with Manhattan CB1. Chair Meltzer and Vice Chair Blank, thank you so much for coming. We would just like to welcome everyone and say, this is a constructive conversation of some updates that are going on in all of Lower Manhattan. We have every single agency represented here. We're thankful to have you here working with our office. And we are very thankful for whatever is going to happen tonight, which I'm praying we have some really, really great just pieces of information that are needed from the community and updates that are needed for everyone here. So without further ado, I will introduce my own congressman who I work for, who I'm very thankful for and has done a great job, our newest member of the delegation, Congressman Dan Goldman.
Thank you, Tevin. Thank you for helping to organize this. Tevin has just been a fantastic piece of our team. I'd also want to introduce, before we get going too far, way in the back there is John Blasco, who's the Deputy Chief of Staff and District Director. Many of you know John, and Haley Scott, who's my Chief of Staff. I very intentionally put more than half of our budget in the district, which is very unusual for members of Congress. But that was very important to me to make sure that we are responsive to the needs of the entire district, which are varied and different. And it makes it both challenging, but really meaningful and interesting to be able to address so many different problems. And I am absolutely thrilled with the staff we have. If you guys don't yet know them, you will get to know them. And I think you will agree that they're truly top notch. And really, I couldn't be happier. There's no question. Whatever good I do is because of them, and whatever bad I do is because of me. But it's really great to be here. This is our first in-person official town hall, and it's really a pleasure to be doing it with CB1 down in my neck of the woods where I live. I want to thank Mark Levine, our borough president, for giving us this space. I'm going to text Mark a picture of the room and ask him where he is. But Mark's been a great partner, and I'm sure you all know him as well, and thrilled to be able to use this space. We know now that the quote, once in a generation or once in 100 years climate event is now happening every 5 to 10 years. The impact of climate change can be seen in the extreme weather events that we've been having here in the city, around the country. I mean, you look at the torrential downpours in California after years and years of drought. Certainly some, tornadoes, hurricanes, the excessive heat. It's very clear that the climate world we knew once has changed. And we've suffered so much. I don't need to remind you all about Hurricane Sandy and Ida. One of the major undertakings that my whole district is undergoing on both sides of the river is resiliency. It is a critical component to the future of this city, to the safety of this city, and to the development of the city. We must ensure, first and foremost, that we have a resilient city, that whatever happens, if we have another Superstorm Sandy, if it's worse, we're prepared for it. We were not prepared for it then, but we have to be prepared for it going forward. And we have to be thinking bigger and better and I think more boldly, because we don't want to have to do this again in 20 or 30 years. I mean, the reality is it will not happen again in 20 or 30 years. So we have no choice but to prepare for the next 50, 75 years, because we're not going to do this again. We have to be realistic that these resiliency projects are major undertakings. They're incredibly costly. They're incredibly disruptive. And we don't want to have to continue to do them every 20 or 30 years. So we are really thrilled that, Tammy and Alice have asked us to convene all of the relevant stakeholders in our city's resiliency programs. We've heard from a lot of constituents who want to understand the full picture. And there are many aspects to the full picture with many different agencies and many different interests. And so we're really excited to be able to bring everyone together so that we can get a full picture of what's going on with the resiliency plans in Lower Manhattan. It is also really important that we ensure community engagement. And that is central, I think, to our mission as the congressional representative. It's central to the Community Board One's mission, and I'm very grateful for our partners in city and state government who recognize the importance of that as well. And so I do really want to thank everyone for gathering here, both those in the community who want to hear and voice any concerns, and those from our city and state stakeholders who can provide information and are really interested in getting some of that community feedback. Before I go on too long, let's get on with the show here. Since I think we're all really eager to get down to business and really understand what's going on, what are the concerns, where's the progress, and make sure that your voices are heard. So let me quickly turn it over to Tammy and Alice to say a few words before we bring up all the folks who are doing the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stay here and speak from here just for speed. Post Superstorm Sandy, Community Board One was really devastated in many neighborhoods in many areas. If you were down here, it was beyond just the streets and the flooding. It was our infrastructure and years of generators in different places, loss of life, loss of access to many things. So we know that work needs to be done. Really, really, really fortunate that a subcommittee was started, focused just working on resiliency, which has morphed into the Environmental Protection Committee that Alice Blank chairs. And the work that we do on the community board has been focused really on getting everybody together, trying to get a focus on the engagement to all the vested stakeholders, to get as many people as we can to come into the room to understand. Each individual area is a little bit different. Each one has some of the same stakeholders and some of the different ones. But at this point, one of the things that I can say is I don't know anybody on Community Board One who has heard more, read more than Alice Blank. And I hand it to Alice.
Oh, that's very nice. I'll hand it over to.
It's all your fault, Alice.
Yeah. I want to thank you, Congressman. You know, you have been an amazing force already on the resiliency front, and I thank you for getting us the extension for a month or so, and for your work over there at Goldman. You know, it's really fantastic, and so I'm personally delighted that you're on board here in our district. I also want to thank a couple of people who are in this room, primarily Catherine McVeigh Hughes, who started this ball rolling as our former chair extraordinary, and Diana Sweetie, who was my right hand and left hand for many years, and for Devastated to have lost her, and for the whole Environmental Protection Committee of Community Board One, who've been really consistent and incredibly helpful. And who, have reviewed these plans over the past 7 years. So, for me, what I would love to see come out of this is something we are constantly talking about, which is this kind of holistic approach in communication and in looking at these plans. And when the Army Corps plans were put forth, everybody started to pay attention because we realized the impact that these would have and how broad reaching they are. And, to me, the biggest question has been, how will we get the federal, city, and state together, as you point out, having this full picture on a screen at all times? What and how do we make that happen? That is critical. That still hasn't really been answered. And I hope that these kinds of engagements with the federal component will help in this. I don't have an answer, but I look to all these experts in the room to maybe find one. But who is going to be giving us that full picture? How do we all engage? How do we make sure every stakeholder is aware, and the public generally? This is critical component. And then just on a specific note, if I can put a plug, that we are working very hard on something called the West Side Task Force. This is where the Army Corps is reviewing their thing. And, we really need to make sure, and Tammy's been unbelievably supportive on this, to get a task force going and to make sure that happens, identify who's going to be on it and get it going and funded. And so, I hope that can also come out of tonight's discussion. Okay, I leave it to the next person. I'm not sure who that is.
Tie one thing up. We have all of the amazing agencies in the room. The one thing that we know is that the agencies all talk with us, but we don't all have necessarily the same stakeholder lists. The other thing that I hope that comes out of this meeting, West Side Task Force, a Maritime Task Force, and a list of all the stakeholders that can be shared from each agency. So we're all working to ensure that we have everybody as inclusive as possible, and that every meeting that we run, whether it's a city agency doing it, a state agency, a state authority, or the Parks Department, that you have the list and you have the people, and we can help you update that list so the public knows and the stakeholders are all aware. And we don't hear, even if it's advertised, a direct connection to the stakeholders, what we're looking for. So we have the biggest, robust engagement. And with that, thank you, Congressman.
Before I turn it over to the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, I also want to just plug in for Catherine. Very early in the campaign last summer, I happened to be walking in a parade in Lower Manhattan next to Catherine.
July 4th.
It was July 4th, yes. And I had no idea that I was actually walking to Lower Manhattan's foremost expert on resiliency. And so we literally walked the whole way, talked the whole time, told her about how, my apartment flooded during Sandy as well. And my building did, and I'm well aware of, the need for it. But thank you, Catherine, for all of your work on this issue, and happy to see you here. So let's move forward now. Jordan Salinger, here's Jordan. Come on up, and you're next. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Jordan Salinger, Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. Nice to see all of you in person tonight. Know that we've been working together, many of you, for the last 6+ years on some of these efforts. Glad you had the Catherine experience. I know that we've all had variations. But did want to pick up on one thing that you said before. This is your first in-person town hall. I think we are all honored that you picked resiliency as a topic. Resiliency isn't always other very critical issues, but with 10 years after Sandy, these issues for some start to fade into the background, and I think this for this community board, I think that's unacceptable, and I think you've heard from them how critical this issue is. And so appreciate you putting this on tonight. So with that, I know that we have a few slides. Many of you will be familiar with some of these images. I don't know if I can scooch around so I can see the slides, or you can put it up on this as well.
Is it, no, it's not up there now?
Not showing yet.
Just me.
Oh, it's just awkward. That's catching up. That's a live stream.
My former
Yeah,
self.
but it's you on a delay.
Yeah.
of, 10, 6 to 8 seconds. So.
This is a less chilling image. Okay,
Jordan, this is also,
perfect.
tell me.
This is great. I think, bear with us. There's a lot of information, gives you a sense of all that we're doing. And also that a number of these projects are in different stages. And that can kind of be a challenge to convey when some are entering construction, some are at the end of design, some are at the kind of peak moment where we want to hear from you all of how these projects work best with the community, and others like 5IC4 are a long-term vision plan. So it's incumbent on us to make that very clear that they're kind of all different pieces of the puzzle, and we rely on all of you to make it better at the end of the day. So go to the next slide.
You go next to here.
Oh, perfect. Yes, so tonight, once again, I'm doing a quick update from me on the kind of overall set of projects. And then you'll be hearing from our agency partners, including our state counterparts, Battery Park City Authority, EDC, DDC, and DOT. And then finishing talking about some ongoing engagement opportunities. So, bit of delay on this one. But to give you a sense, here is the portfolio of LMCR projects, roughly $1.7 billion worth of projects that span from Montgomery Street down around the Battery up to the top of Battery Park City Authority. You'll see here a couple different additional pieces. East Side Coastal Resiliency, a project that is outside of the CV1 borders, but is critically important. And we will have a couple slides to update folks on that effort, as well as the U.S. Army Corps Engineers HATS Harbor and Tributary Study, where we'll be hearing from the Army Corps as well. Covers a similar geography, and happy to talk through issues on that as well. So I think this slide is helpful to give a sense of, beyond lines on a page, truly what these projects are starting to look like. Top image there is our interim flood protection measures. This is a program that we work with emergency management on. Heard from the community, great, you're doing kind of long-term planning, but what are you doing to make us safer now? And this has been deployed in the seaport and areas of two bridges, ways to really buy down risk, not necessarily protecting against that kind of giant Hurricane Sandy storm, but kind of more frequent coastal storms that we expect to see in the near future. Also have, we can keep on this slide for one more moment. We also have asset level protection. So, a lot of our buildings have done critical work. Here, the image shows some of the work at the Hugh Perry Tunnel, protecting that gate. We also have a series of the BMCR project we'll be getting into, the battery project, and as I mentioned before, this long-term effort that we're doing in 5IC4. And so, once again, I mentioned this at the top, but to give you a sense of where we are with each of these projects, the BMCR project, the one at the top, broke ground in the fall and construction has started. South Battery Park City following quickly behind, as well as the Battery Coastal Resilience. So I would put kind of those three projects in that first category of construction. Then you have the next two projects, the Northwest Battery Park City Resilience and Seaport Coastal Resilience, that are in design. And so once again, there have been kind of a number of recent community meetings and upcoming meetings for Seaport Coastal Resilience. And then that long-term effort for the 5I Seaport Master Plan. Next slide. And so I know there's a lot of conversations about kind of city involvement, state involvement, and kind of overall coordination. Here you get a sense of some of the city agencies, city and state agencies that are involved in these projects. There are many others. Just give you a sense this, I think we have the front row with our city family. But I wouldn't doubt if there are hundreds of other city folks working on these projects. You can see here, Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, the office I work in, really focuses on overseeing this overall portfolio, including LMCR, with a citywide lens and ensuring that policy is consistent across the projects. New York City EDC, which is leading 3 of the 4 main projects that we'll be talking tonight. The Parks, who is the owner and operator of the Battery Park City Authority, who's leading their work, these South and Northwest projects. DDC, who's currently constructing the ESCR and BMCR projects, and DOT, who you'll also be hearing about tonight, their West Street Underpass, Staten Island Ferry Terminal, just to give you a sense of some of the work that's going on. And with that, I will hand off to Varun, Battery Park City Authority.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Congressman, for having us. My name is Varun Kohli. I'm the AVP for Planning and Design with the Real Property Department at Battery Park City Authority. And clearly, we've been fully engaged with a number of these resiliency projects that are going on in Battery Park City. So I'll give you a general overview of all the projects that are happening and our sort of priorities and what's really been going on in terms of community engagement and the timeline of these projects. So at Battery Park City, we've kind of divided this up into 3 major projects. The first one was the BPC Ball Fields Resiliency, which was really a temporary or sort of a long-term temporary project to protect the ball fields until the entire resiliency projects are completed. The second is the South BPC Resiliency Project, which is the lower gray line that you see along Wagner Park and up. That project is commencing construction now, and we expect it to be completed by 2025. And then the larger project is that Northwest Resiliency Project, which is that orange line that goes up all the way from South Cove area all the way up to the northern end of Battery Park City and across, and I'll explain a little bit on that. That project is currently under design. We are working with our consultant team on the 30% design and fully engaged with a number of these community engagement meetings and events that are happening. Next slide, please. So quickly on this, the Ball Fields Resiliency Project. This is something that we completed last summer. And essentially, the picture on the left is really from Sandy and what happened there. It's a low-lying area. It was flooded. And what we have recently completed is the foundation underneath this fence wall that you see, and then the lower piece with the painted metal wall that you're seeing. All that is there to protect the ball fields until the south and the north are completely done. Next slide. So the South Resiliency Project, to be able to see that, I wanted to go over the overall timeline. Is it gonna show? Okay, there we go.
All right. This is the active one.
I know, but I can't read.
I got you.
All right. So we engaged a design consultant early on in this in 2021. The design was completed December 2021. The EIS was done in October of 2022 last year. And we have started construction right about now. We expect to complete in 2025, as I mentioned before. The way this project is sub-broken is we have a phase 1, which is essentially, if you look at the map, the upper side of the project, Wagner Park and the area around Museum of Jewish Heritage. And then the southern part around PRA Plaza and portion of the Battery, that's phase 2. So phase one, we have construction that started. Phase two, we're in the final stages of procurement for a contractor, and we expect start construction in the summer of this year. Again, ending in around 2025. One thing I should point out, just from the design side for this project, as well as the Northwest project that we're designing, we are very much keeping in mind sustainability, which is a key aspect of our project. So we're making sure that while we are adapting to climate change, that we're at the same time employing and deploying, mitigation measures for sustainability, reducing carbon emissions through our construction process. Next slide, please. So as far as the community engagement goes now during construction for South Battery Park City Resiliency Project, we do have an assigned person for that. This information is also available on our website. So there, if there's any information that you need, you can go to our website or reach out to us or to the contact on the screen. Next slide, please. So for the North Resiliency Project, this we took a slightly different route in the methodology for design and construction. Instead of a traditional path of design first and then procurement for contractor, we have gone the route of progressive design build, which makes the process more efficient and smoother and faster. And what that basically means is that we have gotten a team on board that includes the construction piece as well, the construction consultant, as well as the design consultant. So they're all working together right now, and it allows us to kind of move through the process much quicker and faster. The team, the PDB team was brought on board last summer. We've been working through design through a number of community engagement meetings. We expect to complete EIS in 2024. We expect to start construction in 2025 and substantial completion by 2027. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the community engagement, there have been a number of community meetings last year, including workshops that we had with community members who walked through the site and explained everything. In fact, one of the things that we've done that was quite interesting is we have, if you walk along the Esplanade in Battery Park City, you will see some of the lampposts are painted bright blue. And the top of that bright blue line, where it ends, is where we expect the water to be in 2050s for a 100-year storm. And it really gives you a sense of what we're dealing with here. But that was part of the workshop that we did last year in October and November. And then starting this year, last February, we've had 4 workshops with the community, which is a very different format. We wanted to, instead of just presenting what we were doing, we actually sat down in tables. We engaged with the community. We took all the feedback, and we've actually, we've kind of timed it in a way that we're able to take that feedback and then incorporate in our 30% design, which will be completing roughly late spring or early summer. So that's when we'll have our next public meeting to present the 30% design. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, EDC.
Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Jennifer Cass. I'm the Senior Vice President in EDC's Capital Program. I'm going to speak tonight about the battery project. Silence my phone. EDC is working on this project with the New York City Parks Department. We are managing the project on behalf of the Parks Department. EDC also owns a sliver of the property area that this project is on, which I'll show in the next slide. So just wanted to kind of detail our project team, and then I'll talk a little bit about the stage that the project is at and what it entails for anyone who's not familiar.
Is there a microphone? No.
I'll try to speak up.
Thank you.
So our design team is Stantec Consulting. Our construction management team is Hunter Roberts. The project budget is currently at $165 million. So I know Tammy had asked that we talk about a little about our coordination. We actually usually have a list of all of the agencies and various stakeholders that we consult with, but we took that off tonight to make it a little smoother. Among the folks that we are coordinating with, people in this room, of course, Parks, DOT, National Park Service, Army Corps, Department of Environmental Protection, the Battery Conservancy, Battery Park City Authority, Varun had just spoke, as well as, other kind of new engagement opportunities we've had, such as local tribes in the area or tribes that used to occupy the space that we're in. So we have really tried to do a comprehensive outreach and coordination throughout the project. A lot of work is going on in Battery Park. So we need to do that for our construction coordination, but we also want to make sure that everyone is fully engaged and has gotten feedback. We are currently at our 100% design phase. We have 100% design documents that have been approved by the Public Design Commission. That was received last fall. And we are getting ready to start construction. We are in our construction procurement process. We have already procured a few packages, such as an early demolition and salvage package. As Varun mentioned, underlying all of these projects is our sustainability plan. And we, really see sustainability as coupled with resilience. You cannot have one without the other. So one of our key drivers in this project is trying to reuse as much material as possible. And we're hoping, that will reduce our embodied carbon footprint. The project is going through the Envision sustainability certification process, and we are expecting to receive platinum, which is the highest level in the Envision program. Just to outline a few other key milestones, you may have seen a barge on site already. That is to get the project site ready for us to maintain National Park Service vessels during construction. So the wharf is in severe deterioration. It needs to be replaced, and we are replacing it in a phased process so that we can keep the active marine wharf for National Park Service vessels to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. And we expect to start our full wharf reconstruction in later this year. So giving you all that information, I'm going to just walk through a little bit about the project for anyone who's not familiar. This project spun out of prior phases of the Five Seaport Master Plan and Lower Manhattan Coastal Resilience Master Plan. And it was identified as an early project that could be constructed to protect the city and protect Battery Park against sea level rise in 2100. So where you currently step down to the wharf from the park, you will step up to elevation 11. So there's a bunch of lines here showing all of the different elevations, essentially all of the factors of safety that are built into the project get you up to elevation 11. The wharf is currently at elevation 5 for reference, elevation 6 for reference. And so that raises the wharf by 5 feet. You can go to the next slide. Oops. Okay, you all can see it. This is a perspective view of what the wharf will look like after construction. Just a few key things that I wanted to call out. Like I was saying, you will, walk up to the wharf instead of walking down to the wharf as you do now. We've really tried to make sure that we have a universal design approach to the whole project and maintaining, and actually increasing the number of ramps and sloped paths is probably a better term to use because ramp has a specific technical terminology. So we're really trying to have as many sloped paths coupled with staircases throughout the project. You can see maintaining and rebuilding these gardens of remembrance that were built after September 11th. And then you see the interesting step down feature at the wharf. That is also a resilience feature to try to build the wharf as flexibly as possible so it can be used throughout the useful life of the new construction, but also used by a flexible variety of different vessels. We don't know what vessels will be out there in the future and at different tides and different tides now and at different tides in 2080 or whatever we see in the future. So that's really the battery project. Well, I'll turn it over to the Seaport.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alexis Taylor. I'm the Vice President of Climate Resilience at EDC, and I'm joined by my colleague.
Blake Monteith. I'm an Assistant Vice President on the planning team at EDC, helping to lead this project. So the Financial District in Seaport Climate Resilience Master Plan focuses on a geography from the Battery on the southern end up to the Brooklyn Bridge on the northern end. Now, all aspects and all geographies of Lower Manhattan are complex and unique in their own way, but this particular geography of Lower Manhattan is incredibly complex when we think about it from a flood defense and coastal defense perspective. This is an area where we have very limited space on land today to build very tall and wide flood defense walls and systems. This is also an area where we have multiple ferry terminals that are very much critical infrastructure for our city and help us move and connect between boroughs. We also have multiple subway tunnels underground running underneath this area, which make it very challenging when we think about building flood walls deep into the ground to prevent any sort of seepage into the neighborhood itself. For all these reasons, when we were approaching and thinking about how to build flood defense for this segment of Lower Manhattan, we realized and decided with a lot of engineering studies that we need to extend the shoreline of Lower Manhattan between up to one city block in some locations in order to build this infrastructure and provide the space for all of these important systems in this area. Now, because we're extending the shoreline of Lower Manhattan, that is not an easy thing to do. It's something that takes time. And so we're taking a bit more time to really think through all of the planning and engineering elements of this project. And we're going through a much more conceptual master planning exercise before we can begin the more detailed design and construction of this project. But what is the FIDA Seaport Climate Resilience Master Plan? Ultimately, when this project is built, it will be a two-level waterfront with a lower level that's protecting against daily high tide flooding in 2100, and a higher level behind that that's protecting against much more severe coastal storm surges like we saw in Hurricane Sandy and Ida. Now, we've been working on this master plan since 2019. And at the end of 2021, we released the first version of this master plan. We like to say this is a city and community-driven master plan because so much of the feedback that we heard through extensive engagement over that 2-year period is baked into every detail of this plan. But there's so much more that we need to figure out. This is ultimately a flexible framework within which we can continue to refine and build this coastal defense system in the future. So now I will turn it over to my colleague Alexis to talk about the next steps on the project.
So we received feedback about how important it is that we communicate where we are in this process, because this project is not as far along as the other projects you're going to hear about tonight. It's also important that you understand that it is kind of a large vision that will take many years to realize. So for full build out, we're really talking about 15 to 20 years. And we're just at the early stages of this project. So following the release of the master plan in December of 21, and I can say the award-winning master plan, it was very well received. And based on that support, we were able to secure additional city funds to advance the project, portions of the project, to 30% design. And that's where we are now. And that's 30% design for the base infrastructure. So we're really talking about the flood defense infrastructure and the underlying footprint. Other parts of the design that have to do with the marine facilities, new ferry terminals, we're advancing to 10% design. What that will allow us to do is then enter into the environmental review and permitting stages. And so that will be in about 2.5 years. It is also very important that everyone understand that our current funding is really only for that second orange arrow that you see. And so the sustained support of the community, folks in this room, the folks online, will really be critical in securing additional funding in the future. And we know, given the price tag of this project, that it will need to be a combination of city, state, and federal funding. And so we really appreciate this continued support of you all as we advance this design. Thank you.
Sorry, the slide is slow.
Oh,
Yeah.
here we go. We are in this second orange arrow.
The dotted one.
No, the advanced 30% design of the base infrastructure, and that will occur over the next 2.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Blake. As we digest this just for a couple seconds, and as we have the aforementioned 8-second delay, I'm gonna just talk about the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project, SPCR. This is in the same region as the master plan. This is seen as a down payment essentially in the same area, while the master planning process will take quite an extended amount of time. This is a particularly low-lying area where we need to do something quicker, because by the 2050s, it'll see rather periodic flooding. So the Seaport Coastal Resilience creates a more resilient seaport, addresses sea level rise, drainage risks, and improved waterfront access. The level of protection by raising the shoreline 3 to 5 feet will provide sea level rise protection until 2100 and storm surge protection for the 2050s. As part of the federal grant application process, we did apply for BRIC funding. The early project scoping also includes esplanade improvements, ecological enhancements, and green infrastructure to address the stormwater management. Green infrastructure is something that we're definitely going to attempt to focus on during this process. And then this is still in one of the earlier stages. We are working on the RFP internally, and the design will be developed once we move further along into the design process and have a consultant on board. I just want to stress that the image you see on the screen is still a draft. This is just something we produced for the grant application. These are not the final locations, but we will be raising up the esplanade 3 to 5 feet to meet the coastal storm flooding requirements of about 11 NAVD from up. And then the reason that this area is required, it's particularly low lying. It creates a bathtub effect from the areas adjacent. So when the water is overtopped, it kind of sits there. And it's something that's definitely required before the master plan is produced. So next slide. So just because we're still in the early process, we're still developing the RFP. Our next step is we'll continue to coordinate closely with the community when we have Some funding goals. We have 170 million of city capital. We have 50 million from FEMA in our BRIC grant. This is the highest amount that's actually allowable. So that was a large win for us. And then 8.8 from the Howard Hughes Corporation to go towards the waterfront esplanade and public improvements. The next steps is the BRIC award process is ongoing from FEMA. We have a notice of award, but we're still waiting on the formal, like the actual physical piece of paper that says we're awarded. That should be coming, from what I understand, imminently. And then the beginning of procurement of the design team is also imminent as we're developing the RFP. And just to reiterate and to really stress this, when we have a designer on board, we'll regularly coordinate with the community and stakeholders and share updates via any type of meeting that we need and the quarterly updates with CD1. So thank you all. I think we have the NCR next.
So I was in a corner, so I can't, let's see, what is the introductions?
This is the slide. The live stream will catch up.
Perfect, got it. Okay, well, hello, everyone. I am Rocket Osborne from DDC, Department of Design and Construction. I'm absolutely honored to be here before you, Congressman Goldman, the City One Committee, as well as all the city agencies here. So let's talk about some of the work that DDC has been doing. We're very excited to give updates as well as an overview of our two main coastal resiliency initiatives. By the way, I tend to speak very quickly. My name is Rocket. So if I go a little too quickly, just like give me a little wave or a little air pull to make sure everyone can hear me. So our two main initiatives are the Brooklyn Bridge to Montgomery Street project, also known as BMCR, as well as the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, affectionately known as the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. So we have plans of the project. So let's start with BMCR. So essentially with BMCR, we have an opportunity to protect the neighborhoods along the eastern coast of Lower Manhattan. I know that we're right above the CV1 district, so we're just right north of you. But as you said, this is all very critical work. With the way that we do our flood protection with BMCR is that we employ a series of flip-up floodgates. So if you can imagine a hydraulic floodgate, whenever there's a warning of a storm, we can hydraulically flip those up so that in the event of there's rainfall coming, we can protect from that rainfall entering the city center. In addition to those flip-up gates, we also have roller gates, and we also have fixed storm walls that provide the same function. We've also taken this opportunity to upgrade the sewer infrastructure so that, again, in the event of heavy stormfall, we can manage that water draining in. That was the code.
I got you.
Oh, there is a delay. Okay. That's a delay. I'll watch that one. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, ESCR. I'll mention this is DDC's pride and joy, and just because I'm on it, so perhaps this is just my words. But we've spent a lot of time working hard on this project. Right now, we are in construction. I guess the first thing I'll mention is that the way that ESCR provides flood protection is a little different from BMCR. With ESCR, we have the ability to provide flood protection via an array of swing gates. We have roller gates. We also have gates that are above ground. We have flood walls that are below ground, so that in the event there's any stormwater coming in, we have that protection below ground as well. We have sewer, combined sewer or CSO overflow expansion. So again, we can handle the stormwater. And we also have, and we have so many things. We also, one of the biggest things that we're doing is we're actually raising the entire East River Park by 8 to 9 feet. So all those together really are a very comprehensive way for us to protect our waterfront. While we're doing this very critical flood protection work, we also see this as a great opportunity to improve the waterfront. We're providing new amenities. We're taking every opportunity to improve the drainage. We're also bringing in new trees and new planting material that can withstand storms and seawater. So for ESCR, it's important to note that we have broken it into 3 separate areas. So let's say if BMCR went from the Brooklyn Bridge all the way to Montgomery Street, the ESCR begins at Montgomery Street and extends all the way up to East 25th Street. So now we're talking about protecting not just the East River Park, but also the districts of CB3 and CB6. Okay, staying on this slide, we can staying on this slide, we've broken up the area into 3 specific areas. From project area 1, that starts all the way from Montgomery Street to East 14th. Then we have project area 2 that goes from East 14th all the way up to East 25th Street. And then we have PC, or parallel conveyance. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. We have parallel conveyance, which is essentially within those borders, and it's located at various locations where we do that sewer upgrade work. Focusing on construction and the construction schedule for project area 1, it's important to note that project area 1 is divided into 2 areas. First, we have the lower end, or rather the southern end, which we're calling phase 1, which is supposed to be done by roughly 2024. And then we'll be transitioning to phase 2, which will bring us all the way to a 2026 completion. Right now, we've been focusing mostly on the southern end of the East River Park. So we're about almost halfway through just that phase 1. And staying on that slide, if you look to the end for PA2, that project actually started a year before project area 1. So we are well ahead. We're much further ahead with that project, and we are on schedule to complete that by 2025. The last thing I'll mention before we go to the next slide is that we don't have a PC shown here because PC just begun. We're getting it off the ground, but everything has been moving steadily forward, and we're on track to make a 2026 completion for that. Okay. So construction progress. So for the construction work, I'll mention again, this is some of my favorite work because I've had a hand in direct hand in some of it. But I'll tell you, we've done a lot of great work on both project area 1 and project area 2. So let's start with project area 2 at the top. So far, we have completed a series of floodwall gates. As you can see, I know it's a little tiny there, but those gates are absolutely massive. But even although they're massive, they're very easily to be deployed. So again, in the event of warning of a major storm, very easy to get them into action. I'll also mention that we've completed the Astor Levy playground, and that Astor Levy playground is right next to that flood wall. The Astor Levy playground is also equipped with improved drainage. So again, in the event of a storm, that area is going to be very protected. And then last, I'll mention that we have been working on our fixed flood walls. And so far, we have over 1,600 linear miles of flood wall completed to date. So that's the top for project area 2. Let's go to project area 1. So project
Miles?
Did I say miles? I meant linear feet. Oh my God. My apologies. Linear feet. Linear feet. Good catch. Linear feet. Okay, so focusing on project area 1. We're heavy in construction here. So one of the things that we've been putting a lot of attention on is building out our flood walls. So right now, what you see in that first image to the lower left is our sheet piles, which are forming the basis for our fixed flood walls. Next to that, you can see the installation of our pipe piles driven into the ground and driven right next to or right along the East River Park, which essentially will function as a barrier that goes along the esplanade of the East River Park. And then the third picture just shows our continued and ongoing deep sewer expansion.
So that was mine.
Okay.
Right.
And so I'm so glad, Congressman, that you had mentioned the importance of community engagement. So I'll mention that DDC has a very robust community engagement team. In fact, we've had to, right now there's also a CV6 meeting, so we've actually had to split our team in half. And so they pulled me from the field to help out, so my pleasure to help out. But with community engagement, we take it very, very seriously. We not in addition to communicating with the community, we make it our responsibility to also educate the community. So one of the things that we've been doing is that we've been reaching out to local schools and we've been meeting with them, giving them mini lessons about what this project does, this project that's, that's in their backyard, and giving them a real understanding of what the construction process is. I'll also mention that in our community engagements, we've also reached out and launched a call for art where we were able to involve full participation for our students so that we can have their participation as part of the project. And I'll end by saying these coastal resiliency efforts are very important to us. At DDC, we are absolutely proud to do this work. I'm absolutely proud to be on the field to do this work. So thank you so much.
You want to, Joyce, you don't want to, you're good? All right, come on, Zach. From NYC DOT.
Good evening. Thank you, Representative Goldman. Thank you, CB1, for having me. My name is Zach Youngerman. I'm the Director of Resiliency Planning and Management at DOT. We participate in all of these projects that you've seen tonight because we manage the right-of-way, streets, sidewalks, and also have a role in the managing the waterfront as well. The projects that you've heard tonight are essentially neighborhood protection projects. So I'll talk very quickly about two projects or three projects that are in the area, but that are facility level flood protection projects. So the benefit is the same as a flood protection project for maybe a subway station or a building. And these three projects are the Battery Park Underpass, West Street Underpass, and the Whitehall Ferry Terminal. So all three of those have flood protection projects that are underway that are again at the facility level scale. For the Battery Park Underpass, the protection there will also have flip-up gates that we heard similar to what we heard will be at BMCR. Also, because it's a tunnel, it has ventilation shafts. So there's flood protection that will be done to protect those entry points as well. Most of the work will be performed in the tunnels. So there will be limited disruption at the surface in the park and to the area around it. And for the West Street Underpass, the flood protection is just on the ventilation openings and chambers. The start date for that is late 2023, and it's expected to be a 2-year project. Next slide, please. And the Battery Park Underpass will be kept open during the daytime, closed at night. The next project I want to talk about again briefly is the Whitehall Terminal Flood Protection Project. The ferry system, both in Lower Manhattan and on Staten Island, suffered a lot during Sandy. So there are projects in both boroughs to protect the facilities that we have. And here the flood mitigation is both structural and protecting electrical equipment, computerized systems, mechanical systems. And so there's a lot of different components to the flood protection there, what we call wet and dry flood protection, meaning some of it will be designed to flood. That has FTA and city funding. And there's a design build RFP that's targeted for spring 2023. Thank you, and happy to answer questions.
So I know we have one final slide just on upcoming engagement. It sounds like we want to move to the Army Corps folks, but just wanted to briefly mention a few of these projects. As I mentioned, there's ongoing construction. We will keep on coming to the community board with updates, but naturally kind of moves into a different phase. Battery Park City, that south project, as I mentioned, will be heading into construction shortly. Northwest Battery Park City. Many of you have been attending their Reach by Reach workshops. The last one, I believe, the North Cove last night, as well as an upcoming meeting when they hit 30% design later this spring. Seaport Coastal Resilience and 5A Seaport Master Plan, both, will be entering into phases where there'll be a lot of engagement. Mentioned there's an RFP coming up for Seaport Coastal Resilience, and then 5A Seaport Master Plan. We will be doing a series of workshops on specific area issues. We had one on maritime earlier this week. We will have a variety of others. And as you'll see there, please don't take us up on this offer, but we do offer individual briefing. Anyone wants to kind of hear about our work, happy to meet with you. So thanks, everyone. Sorry for how long that was. Appreciate it.
No. Our last people are U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I just want to make one last quick programming note. If you have questions that you'd like to write on the index cards, please let us know. This is our last agency that will present, so we want to get that going.
Of course.
Yep, I like that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Baumert. I am the Chief of the Coastal Navigation Section in Plan Formulation Branch, New York District, Army Corps of Engineers. And with me today, I have Carissa Scarpa, who is the Chief of the Watershed Section in Environmental Analysis Branch, Planning Division, New York District, Army Corps of Engineers. So, this slide shows the New York, New Jersey harbor and tributaries coastal stormwater management feasibility study area. On the left, you see the entire study area by color. Now, this area was identified as part of the North Atlantic Coast Comprehensive Study that was conducted in 2015 after Hurricane Sandy. And it identified this area not only because it was severely impacted from Hurricane Sandy, but because the Corps has never done a comprehensive study for the entire area. There's lots of studies going on, there's lots of projects, but it has never been looked at comprehensively. So that is what our study is aiming to do. It is, of course, as we know, highly urbanized and densely populated. In late September 2022, just a few months ago, we did release a draft integrated feasibility report and Tier 1 environmental impact statement. And that details a comprehensive plan, a very preliminary and very conceptual comprehensive plan for the study area. And that plan is the plan that we think may be most likely to move forward. But we are currently in our public comment period. That comment period does end March 31st. So please get your comments in by then so they can be part of the formal comment record. Next slide, please. I'm really glad I printed out my slides. So we did evaluate a large array of alternatives. They ranged from no action, comparing what would happen if we did not do anything, and then alternatives 2, 3A, 3B, 4, all the way from all in water structures, meaning large storm surge barriers to reduce risk. And then each alternative really steps back further into the estuary until the last alternative that we looked at was all land-based measures. So the alternative that we selected as being the tentatively selected plan is right in the middle. It's a combination of shore-based measures and in water structures. So there are 3 main surge barriers as part of this plan. If you can look in the blue lines, storm surge barriers in Jamaica Bay, the Arthur Kill, and the Kill Dam Hull. We also have smaller barriers on Gowanus Canal, Newton Creek, and Flushing Creek. We also have shore-based measures or large flood walls in Jersey City, East Harlem, and of course, the lower west side of Manhattan. The areas that you see in green are the areas that benefit from the proposed plan. The areas in orange are areas that there would be residual risk in those areas. Just really quickly, the first cost of this plan is about $52.7 billion. Construction is estimated to take 14 years. And we are estimating that there's annual net benefits of $3.71 billion and a benefit to cost ratio of 2.1. Now, we are still in a very preliminary and conceptual stage. We are in the feasibility phase. We're still accepting comments. The earliest, if everything goes perfectly smoothly, the earliest construction would start is 2030. Next slide, please. So this is just a zoom in of the tentatively selected plan features in the area of particular interest today. So it does consist of about roughly 6 miles of barrier. So the so the total length 31,000 feet. And these measures, as you can see, there's different colors along the waterfront. These are very preliminary, very conceptual, but it would consist of a combination of flood walls, levees, flip-up barriers, pedestrian and vehicle gates, elevated promenades, flood walls with parks, and seawalls. We do understand that there is a lot of complexities in the area, a lot of flood risk, both from coastal storm surge and from interior stormwater, rain, interior drainage issues. And the analysis that we did does incorporate interior drainage structures and pump stations to make sure to reduce the risk of interior drainage flooding. But we do need to take a deeper dive into that. And we do understand, as presented today, that there are a ton of really great plans and concepts that are ongoing in the area or in the process of being built or in design. So we do need to reconcile our study with those. But again, we're at a very preliminary stage and we are happy to do so. And on the right, you can see this is a very conceptual, if not ugly, look at what a flood wall could look like to give you an idea of the height. But again, super conceptual. It really identifies, our study has thus far really identified that this area needs something. And this is a very initial look at what could potentially.
Those are permanent, other than the closing doors?
Those would be permanent, yes. Preliminary and conceptual. Next slide, please. All right, so I believe, okay, the schedule. So we did start the study in 2016. We were paused for a little bit due to lack of federal funding, but we have resumed, and we have the public comment period is currently ongoing for the draft integrated feasibility report and tier 1 environmental impact statement. Please get your comments in by March 31st. If things go super smoothly, we aim to have the end of the study in 2024. That may very likely get extended, yet to be determined. We'll reevaluate once we get all the comments from all the agencies at the end of the month. I do want to note that this is just the end of the study phase. After the study phase, we need to get congressional authorization and appropriations to move forward into design. So there's still a lot of room for comments and improvements. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we do have 2 more virtual engagement sessions, virtual meetings that we are having next week. We have one on Tuesday, March 21st. Here is the WebEx, Mr. Bryce Weismiller's WebEx. He is our project manager for this study. So the 21st, Tuesday at 1 p.m. and then the 22nd, Wednesday at 6 p.m. So an afternoon and an evening session. During those sessions, we accept comments into the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we ask as many questions, we answer as many questions as we can, and everything that gets put into the comments is documented in our formal public record. Next slide, please. All right, so if you want to learn more, please come to one of our virtual public meetings next week. There's also, the website is there. If you just type in Army Corps hats, it will show up. The report is on there and all the appendices all together. It's about 4,000 pages. So if you're looking to fall asleep really quickly, please take a look at any of those documents. You can submit your comments to us through that email, or you could actually physically write us a letter at the addresses on the slide. All of this information, including a more robust presentation that you will see if you join us next week, is all on the website. That's it. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you again, and I just want to take a moment and say thank you again to all of our colleagues at city, state, and federal government for making it and coming in for the community. At this point in time, we are going to have a moment where our community board chair and vice chair will ask a few questions, and then we'll allow some of the questions that were turned in. We had some pre-selected for anyone watching online. We got a lot of your pre-submitted questions that are in, and we circled about 4 of them on there just to answer, and the rest we will follow up with people on. Our chairwoman and vice chairwoman, Tammy Meltzer and Alice Plank, will start with their questions to the agencies that they have for any of these projects, and then we will answer some questions from the community and people that have anything here. And then we'll kick it over to our congressman for any questions that he has for the agency. So in that order, we will go from there and just give a few minutes for each one. So without further ado, we will go with Alice and Tammy with whatever questions for the next 5 or 7 minutes to any of the agencies. Thank you.
Well, I guess I thank you for the presentations. I have to say that the presentation by Rocket actually made me liking the project. It could sell anything. Anyway, yeah, these are all excellent. Certainly seeing these things, some of this, a lot of this before. It's great to see it all at once. I think it underlines exactly the thing that we're asking for, which is to have these kinds of sessions where everything is coordinated in one room, one place, and that would be my question. So, when you look at the Army Corps plans, they are understandably a little bit, I would argue, frightening, to sort of just see these walls marching up the whole west side of the island of Manhattan. And, and then we look at that and we have no understanding of its relationship to anything else, to the whole Army Corps plans for the entire peninsula of Manhattan. So how can we be assured that we have a forum in which this grouping together happens? It seems to have a lot of years ahead of us to do it, but there has to be some forum, some way to make that happen. I'm not sure who I'm addressing the question. I know I've spoken to Jordan about this for years, but we need that. And so that's something that, I'm asking, the congressman to really think about, because I think that's really probably, for me, the most critical component. Again, specifically on the west side, we have got to look at this is an opportunity. We can look at the infrastructure that we have. We can look at 9A, the road. We can look at the park, the Hudson River Park, one of the most magnificent jewels of New York. And how do we all work together to get that a coherent place? Versus putting up a wall and accepting that. And of course, the community and many not-for-profits are completely against that. So what are the solutions? And I think we have to work together to consider alternatives. So, 2 parts, bringing everyone together, what's the forum, and 2, specifically look at the west side and the infrastructure that we have and how we can improve it as an opportunity here with whatever money we may or may not see. That's my main question. I'm not sure if that's got an answer, but concerned.
I don't know if that's for me, but I agree. I think, look, there's a balance between resiliency, utility, and aesthetic. And so we all agree we need to have resiliency, but we have to make sure that we're not sacrificing everything that is valued by the community in favor of resiliency. And so, you know, I am sure the Corps is going to work very closely with all of us, and I and my office will be there to make sure of that. Because, you know, we're gonna be honest, we can't have that.
Well, I think that also brings me to the point that the stakeholder that is relevant in that, as far as on the west side, is state DOT. They're not in the room with us tonight, but we have an opportunity to truly take a cloud view and take a look at 9A and say, what do we want this to look like? Instead of building walls and looking at existing infrastructure for what's there now to build around it, what would we want the west side to look like? How can we maximize public realm, public space, and have resiliency? Maybe this is the time to take a look at the infrastructure we have, knowing that it's aging, and how long have the Con Ed and the other pipes and utilities been under the West Side Highway and West Street, and take a look and say, what can we do now that's better, that's more 22nd, 23rd century looking vision that gives us the ability to update it without having to tear everything apart at every point? If you have a water main break on the West Side Highway, will we lose all our resiliency? Do we have to redo the whole road again? What lessons have we learned from all of these that give us the opportunity? And what agency or task force or group, pursuant to what both of you are saying, can lead that vision forward? Because this is our real opportunity to redo it with not looking at, well, you know, I've got an old phone case and I just need to paint the outside and this will work. But what can I do differently? How do what's the new?
Just following up on that, and I know we have a question on this, and maybe Jordan, you can kind of speak for everyone to some extent in this, and Karen as well. What do you anticipate to be the degree and level of cooperation and collaboration between the city and the Army Corps? You know, I think Karen mentioned that the Army Corps study, which I understand is not finished, hasn't really been reconciled with these other projects that we heard about tonight. How is that process going to play out in your view?
Great question. So, you know, over the last number of years, as we've been sharing materials with all of you, we've also been sharing materials with the Army Corps, including the aforementioned Bryce Miller, the project manager. You know, as we continue to develop, we will continue to make sure that they have kind of our latest materials. But the kind of broader reconciliation question is a very good one. The city, like many of you we are submitting comments to the Army Corps in advance of the March 31st deadline, which means I probably can't say as much as I'd like to in this venue before those are released. But I think the kind of big point here is we all need, you know, this study is tremendous work. The scope is enormous, and it will benefit everyone if it is done correctly. And so I think, you know, all you saw is kind of mentioned in some of those renderings is where there was risk, you know, these kind of very preliminary analysis, kind of lines on a page. You know, I think it is incumbent on all of us, including the city, to make clear what makes sense and what doesn't. And so, you know, I think there are areas where there are disagreements, where, you know, they have kind of certain typologies where, you know, in Finite Seaport in particular, where we have a different concept. And that's a process that we'll engage with the Army Corps to make clear, you know, what we believe is feasible and what we believe is acceptable to the community.
Jordan, can you comment then, or maybe Varun would be even better, because the Battery Park City Authority Northwest project is the one that actually does start the touch of 9A and going up. And we have seen from some of the engagement that there is still dialogue of walls and median walls and other things like that. So I think my question and concern is, are we moving forward with projects on the Battery Park City Authority who's eager to start, and that's setting a precedent for what then has to be and we're spending public dollars to begin this project and get it done in a time period before the integration happens and any larger envisioning and revision of 9A is possible because you've already started? Or do you at that point say, well, this $100 million, we're just gonna revise again?
I mean, maybe I'll start, and happy folks from the Army Corps to comment as well. When their process started, there wasn't, ESCR was an early design, BMCR didn't exist. And so as those processes have moved forward, they've been able to adjust their maps and kind of reduce that kind of what they're calling the west side shore-based measure now. And so that would be a similar process where presumably, as these battery park city projects move forward, there's kind of a less of an area for them to protect. And, the design presumably, with support of the community would be something that, Battery Park City Authority is advancing. But I don't know, Varun, you want to build on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pressure to create an example, but I think, we're grappling with that now, trying to figure out, the challenges with the Hudson River Park on one side, the visual impact, the safety issues with the highways. So, we are exploring all aspects right now, but I don't think we've gotten to a point where we've had any kind of coordination, with Army Corps of Engineers to understand how that translates further north. And I have to say, I think what we're discovering, even in the process of that small area that we're dealing with, I think it's, at the end of the day, it becomes quite localized as well. Like every block, every few blocks, there are different challenges and issues that we end up dealing with. So,
But I will just say, one of the things that I think we will be focused on, and I'm sure, the city of DDC is also focused on is, that is correct. Each, yes, the seaport has different issues than, Wagner Park area and certainly, but, one of the things that we'll want to make sure is that everything is integrated.
yes.
It can't be, a jigsaw puzzle or like Legos where, you have a red Lego and a blue Lego here.
No, and that's precisely why I think we should be looking at everything together, because then you understand the differences and the challenges, and then how do you address it all cohesively?
So, and I don't know where Karen went. Oh, there you are. It sounds to me, Jordan, like what you're saying a little bit is because, the city and Varun are ahead of the Army Corps, that you're moving forward, obviously keeping them informed as to what's going on, but you are adjusting what you're looking at and what your studies are according to their plans, ensuring they satisfy the requirements that the Army Corps would have, but letting them take the lead and adjusting around them. Is that accurate?
So we, again, very preliminary, very conceptual. Right now, our project, our study is really proposing lines on a page. You guys have these great detailed drawings of promenades and baseball fields, and we are nowhere near something like that. And we are really focusing on that coastal, we are focusing on the coastal storm risk management aspect, and you guys are really focusing on like community parks and we obviously care about that, but our authority is focused on that coastal risk reduction. So if we're focusing on the simple flood wall, but if a town or city, community wants to build upon that and integrate other features, that is totally within the realm of possibility. But the local community would pick up that extra tab on that part. So, and because we are at such a preliminary stage right now, really just identifying certain areas that need risk reduction, we are trying to do community engagement, but we're honestly just not there yet. There is so much more opportunity for us to sit down with the different communities and have workshops for the particular areas. So that will be forthcoming. But it is not this current moment. We will be building upon whatever is in our, whatever other people are already, in design, in construction. Everything that we are proposing is going to be adaptable. So sea level change scenarios, sea level rise faster, we can increase, modify our projects. But, yeah,
But I assume that you're, what the Corps expects. Ultimately, I guess it goes back to me, but what the Army Corps expects to pay for is not just, a cement wall along the coast, and anything beyond that is on the city or state.
not just, no, it's complex. We would be looking at reducing coastal stormwater management, doing interior drainage, building promenades where appropriate, flip up gates, all of that would be part of the project.
I think it's fair to say that we considered the current plans in the design, but like Karen said, it's just so, at this point, so simplified. We haven't gotten to the point, but what we would do is, as we refine the design, work it around any plans going forward, and yeah, like she said, integrating.
I mean, one of the things that we're gonna have to make sure of, though, is that you sign off on any of the existing design. Otherwise, we're, having to do it once and then redo it according to your standards.
Sorry to interview. And the difficulty there is that we need the authorization before we can move anything forward. So we're not even certain that this project, will finish feasibility and be authorized for design.
Can you give guidance? Even if it's, you're not paying for it.
What we do with our feasibility report is make a recommendation to Congress.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel after we finish these work intensive, disruptive, very expensive projects that are going on right now.
That's such a good point that you're making, and
Should I talk to my congressman about it?
Actually, what I was going to say was, and something we've been, we've had 20 plus public meetings and over 40 just smaller engagements throughout the process. And what we're saying is, we almost put this out there, and it's very austere and it's very utilitarian. But it was something to get a reaction from the public on. So getting that.
No, that I understand.
Yeah.
I guess I'm talking, because I'm asking for something else, which is, maybe this is not necessary, but if you are also looking, if the HATS is looking at the same area that, there are ongoing projects that are far ahead of where you are. The thing that I would hate to happen is that we finish and complete these projects, and then you come in and say, oh, that's actually not sufficient for what is needed. And then we're left like, oh, well, it would have been really nice to know that 5 years ago when we were building this. And so I don't know if there is a process, Jordan, maybe
Yeah, you bring a great point. I just want to mention at the end of kind of when all of these LMCR projects, there are, as mentioned, some sea level rise projects able to buy down risk now, but they will all be kind of surrounded from East 25th to the top of Battery Park City with projects that are going for FEMA accreditation. And so those are all at least to protect against a 100-year storm in the 2050s. And so realize it's not the Army Corps, but another federal agency will be signing off and giving potentially accreditation for those projects, and be at that stage actually able to change the flood maps, because kind of all the properties behind, well, we wouldn't say have no risk. The risk is greatly reduced.
Right. Do you coordinate with FEMA on that at all?
Yeah. So I think one of my greatest questions that we have at every presentation and discussion about FEMA, and probably the Battery Park City Authority has heard that more than you have at this point, is FEMA requirements do not, as far as I understand, take into account the dense urban environment. So the FEMA requirements are the same in New York City, in an island like Manhattan, as they are in Mississippi. So for argument's sake, for a city who's looking to have 1 million trees, 15 foot from each side of the wall that needs to go up without being able to have any kind of tree canopy or anything else, is really difficult. You are looking at stripping out trees going all along the west side and changing the absolute context of how the edge of the island is. So my question is, for the Army Corps and for FEMA, is what considerations are given in a dense urban environment that are different? I haven't heard anyone tell me anything, and this just isn't Mississippi. We just don't have the amount of land as much to play with as you do down in other areas. So what type of mitigation of an urban environment is included in FEMA certification? That I don't think the public has heard yet. We've heard baseline FEMA.
That'll be our next comment.
Oh, gosh.
I just want to add one thing that's missing often from the conversation that would be really helpful is the sort of elephant in the room, the large elephant of the storm surge gates. You know, we sort of eliminate this, certainly on all of these discussions. They're kind of immediately, folks are focused, rightly so, on the sort of intimate scale of the coast here, wherever they live. But the storm surge gates, if they'll be, if they won't be, how this will affect everything from the Fide Seaport all the way around the peninsula and up, you don't really get that. Are there 3A has been considered. I know it's more expensive, but then it avoids all the shore-based measures. We don't really get a kind of enriched understanding of that granular level that really is critical, I think, in the conversation. I'm hopeful, for example, when the fact that the Battery Park City Authority hasn't really met with Army Corps is a concern, because that would very much, I would imagine, impact the plans that are afoot for the Battery Park City. But, you know, I just think that's, anyway, that part of the conversation should be added into this, you know, because we're not hearing much about it, that's all.
And that would change everything for what you build to,
Yes, of course.
which would then enable the public realm to not have as large walls.
Yeah, according to Plan 3A, if I'm not mistaken, you wouldn't need any shore-based measures all along the west side of Manhattan. Well, that would be a big vote for 3A. And a lot of people, of course, have great concerns, and rightly so, for these gates. So that has to be discussed in this next, you know, tier 2 period. And I really hope we can drill down on that.
Right, well, and I'm really looking forward to, I shouldn't say looking forward to, but I will be illuminating, right, to see the balance in the responses that we've received over the past 120 something days so far or more. And to present that, right, to our leadership and say, we're hearing a whole lot of, you know, hey, we'd rather see this alternative, and we're hearing a whole lot of just, you know, we love the gates, you know, or we hate, or we don't like the gate, you know, just that's the sort of thing that we're gonna sort of digest now. I mean, I'll be honest, right now, I can sort of, just from being in all those meetings, we've heard a lot of different voices. We've heard voices that said, build it tomorrow and build alternative 2. And we've heard people that said, don't do anything in the water at all. So yeah, it'll be interesting to digest all of that.
But my fear, to be quite frank, is by the time it's digested, and by the time that you come back to us,
Of the essence.
that we will have struck ground on most of the projects. And it's going to be very difficult if, for example, the gates are built, to then go back to the Battery Park City Authority, who's then at 75% design build, if not 100, because they're looking to accelerate, and say, but wait a minute, you don't need to be at 16.5 or 17.5 or 20 here, because these gates are now going to be built here. Therefore, it's less about that. And then the variations on everything. Jordan, by luck, but not by opportunity, is a little bit further behind than the Battery Park City Authority in terms of groundbreaking in most of the Fide Seaport. But so maybe that area benefits, but you will have the public dollars and the time and energy and talent that has gone into everything that's gone on the west side to be for naught with the construction impacts on the people, the lack of public access to parks, which is something that we haven't spoken about, but, we're always very mindful of when I'm looking at the timeline of ESCR. If anybody in this room has a kid who plays baseball, soccer, or a grown-up who plays on any of the fields, field space is a premium in New York City for all of the boroughs. And so having massive amounts of the parks out of service at the same time to then come back and find out that it didn't necessarily have to be that way is a bitter pill at best.
We're moving as quickly as we can. And I think to whatever degree we can find, ways to integrate our plans, that is certainly our intent. So any kind of further discussion on this, we're definitely open to it. I'm sorry I don't have one of our engineers with us tonight.
Well, I have to think Bryce. I mean, he's a man with a mission, and he does a lot of talking to a lot of them, so. Yeah, very accessible, so thank you very much. Would you like to go through constituent questions?
Sure.
All right, so one of these actually, since the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, that's timeline and horizon is very long, and the city's 5I Seaport Master Plan is much further along. How will the city and the Army Corps of Engineers work on funding the portions of the plan? And obviously, instead of a 20-foot wall.
So the Army Corps, important thing to remember is that we are not a granting agency. We do not provide funds to, for anyone to just build a project. We need to partner with the city or we need a non-federal partner. We are, again, happy to, complete the study and integrate our plans and work in design phase to reconcile these details. But much betterment than just coastal stormwater management would be on the non-federal sponsor to pay the difference.
And I can take portions of that as well. And I think certainly want to have more conversations with the Army Corps on the Civil Works program itself. But, in the meantime, there are opportunities. There is the once in a generation infrastructure bill. And we plan to use that to the best of our ability. As mentioned before, we were recently awarded a BRIC grant for the Seaport area, the largest award available. But if I'm allowed to do some advocacy in this moment, that program is capped at $50 million. And the numbers we've been discussing tonight, a lot of them have Bs. So, I think that program initially was for kind of an overall pot of 500 million. It is now a much larger program. I believe it's 2.1 billion or so. So it would greatly benefit the New York City area for an expansion of that cap. That's I think set by FEMA. There are a number of other programs becoming available through the IIJA and the Inflation Reduction Act. We're looking at many of them with kind of overlap with maritime and transportation, and plan to pursue all available opportunities.
So other than obviously funding, which is a question that we ask often, in terms of how making sure we're not wasting public dollars, having to tear stuff down and repeat it. Thing I think the community, there are many versions of the same question, so I'm going to read two of them, but I understand that it's the same question. And it's, are all projects using the same sea level rise projections and storm surge assumptions? If not, why, and what are those assumptions? Some are also asking, are the projections for the project using intermediate or high? But in general, everyone asks, are they consistent from all projects? And that goes from ESCR all the way down and back up to Battery Park City Authority.
This is an easy one. Yes.
And what are those levels?
So yes, so the city, say, we all work with the New York panel on climate change. It is essentially kind of a downscaled version of the international panel on climate change. You see them releasing reports that are fairly depressing every now and then. But our work with NPCC really focuses on projections across the board on heat, sea level rise, surge, precipitation. And for these projects, for these planning efforts, we are using the 90th percentile of their projections for sea level rise. And so, you know, for example, many of these are designed for sea level rise in the 2050s. So that's 2.5 feet. You look at kind of all of these projects, it is consistent across the board.
All right, let's see.
Can I just ask, Lucian, can people from the outside ask questions? I'm being texted. Okay, so there's no, well, I have a question. Okay, texted.
Okay.
I think I have a couple of questions here on the Finite Seaport area. The first is, do we know where exactly the one block extensions of land will go into the river? The other question is, what is the $8.8 million committed by Howard Hughes Corporation going to go to, if we know?
Yeah, so on the first question about the extensions of the shoreline, you'll see, or you probably saw in the you probably saw in the rendering before that we have a kind of varying shoreline. There's some areas that extend further out into the river, and there are other areas that are really closer to the shoreline. The big sort of criteria that we're trying to meet, and the big player on this is a group of federal and state regulators who are really asking the question, including the Army Corps, the State Department of Environment and Conservation, and others, really making sure that whatever we're doing in this waterfront is not harming the navigability of the East River, and is also not harming the aquatic ecology of the East River, which are both priorities that are very high for the city as well. So with that in mind, when we were looking at different options for extending the shoreline of Lower Manhattan, we looked at a wide range of options and a wide sort of depth, but we found that this middle path of having some areas that go out further and other areas that are closer seems to work best and most adequately fit the regulatory framework within which we're working in. With that in mind, the areas that are going further out into the water are the areas that are really facilitating access to the waterfront itself. So we have these ramped or sloping up pathways that get us up to the top of that flood defense that will allow New Yorkers in the future to really get to the waterfront and have wonderful views. And then in the areas between those ramp structures, which take up a lot of space, our master plan pulls that shoreline back closer to the current shoreline so that we can, again, minimize the amount of fill that's going into the water.
I'll take the second part.
Great.
The $8.8 million that was referenced is part of that shorter term project that Andrew presented on, Seaport Coastal Resiliency. So that 8.8 is specifically designated for public amenities and improvements. And Andrew had mentioned with the RFP process, the design team is going to be onboarded. That allocation hasn't been specifically designated for anything yet because the design hasn't happened yet. So a design team will be onboarded. We'll continue to do engagement and work out specifically what those public amenities and improvements are.
Was that part of a larger development contract for Howard Hughes?
It goes back to an earlier capital project that has gotten reworked for resiliency. But if you remember, and the community board will remember earlier iterations of these Esplanade improvements that needed to be reworked to make way for these urgent resiliency projects. So it had been committed earlier, and I don't know the specifics, but it had been committed earlier as part of those Esplanade improvements and then packaged into this specific resiliency plan for Seaport Coastal Resiliency.
I have a question on top of that, and maybe this is a dumb question, but there's been a lot of important and good work, done on the coastal area and the seaport and development and it's, et cetera. Is that going to stay, or does that have to be completely redone?
I can speak to that. So first, we very much value and recognize the historic character of the historic South Street Seaport. Our flood defense project, both the Seaport Coastal Resilience Project and the longer-term Fidei Seaport project are ultimately working to protect the historic neighborhood itself. Now, elements of that historic district that today are more vulnerable are really around the Pier 17 area. Now, Pier 17 was recently reconstructed to a higher elevation, which will allow the pier itself to be protected long-term during flooding events. And they very much had resiliency in mind as they built that pier. But today, other elements of that waterfront, the new Tim building that EDC just renovated, piers 15 and 16, all of these today are vulnerable. So as part of the Fidei Seaport Climate Resilience Master Plan, we are reconstructing those areas, leaving the 10 building in place, but building a set of flip-up gates between Pier 17 and the 10 building that would be deployed just before a coastal storm. But overall, raising the shoreline of that entire area to protect against high tide flooding. We will also reconstruct piers 15 and 16, similar to how they are today, so they can continue to provide slips for historic tall ships and other historic ships that dock as part of the Seaport Museum's programming.
That perhaps goes really nicely into one of the public questions. If there are two maritime questions that are quite relevant. One is about electrifying the ferries in the new plans to come and part of the resiliency discussion about green infrastructure for that. And the second one has to do with the types of maritime use that's listed in here. And they note that maritime access other than commercial use seems to be ignored. What part of the planning will include a waterfront that is available with more public versus commercial?
Sure. I can also take that. So first, I'm forgetting the first question.
And
Sorry.
it's not mine.
Yeah.
I promise.
Electrifying ferries.
Electrifying, yeah, thank you so much.
It's a chicken and an egg problem that we have with all of the resiliency plans. And then if you went to the maritime meeting or if you were at the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, listening to the presentations from some of the tour boat operators, they have all said to the constituency and community boards, it's a chicken and egg. So we have asked the resiliency teams to build in electric infrastructure, but I think if we look at all the phones that are up here, all of us have different adapters, and that seems to be the problem with electrification. So again, this goes back to a task force, maybe a maritime group, and something that the mayor's office and the governor and Congress can get together to have a robust discussion about what kind of electric we can have on shore to then have the maritime groups respond to capabilities of what they can do to meet the connections.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to talk about electrification and then this other question of the maritime uses along the waterfront. First, on the topic of electrification, we're very excited to now be working on advancing the master plan in a way where we have a really holistic energy and sustainability strategy, really trying to make this project as close to net zero as possible in terms of the embodied carbon we'll be putting into the construction and the long-term operations of the project. I think a big component of that strategy will be the electrification of both ferry systems that connect here. Our responsibility as the planning team is to make sure that we have the physical infrastructure in place as we build this project, so that DOT, who's the operator of the Staten Island ferry system, and then the operator through EDC of the New York City ferry system can in the future electrify their fleets and charge these vessels along this waterfront. So what we're doing is we're holding space for battery storage. We're also looking at the question of to what extent does the grid, the power grid in this area, is it capable of supporting that, and what improvements might be necessary? So we're in the process of identifying the technical solutions that we want to pursue there, and we'll be coming back to everyone this summer and continuing over the next 2 years with more details on that. In terms of the maritime uses along the waterfront, our first goal and the minimum threshold we have to meet is to replace the very important maritime uses that are there today. Really, the biggest users of its waterfront are 3 ferry systems. There's the Staten Island Ferry, the Governor's Island Ferry, and then the New York City ferry system. And by the way, the Staten Island Ferry has the highest passenger ridership in the country for a ferry system. So very important. All of them are important. All of those to us, we don't consider those commercial maritime uses. We consider those to be critical infrastructure that are owned and operated by the city or by city-supported entities. With that in mind, we're now making sure that we can replace those functions, if not enhance them and make them more efficient and provide more capacity for them to grow, which is another core goal. We're also looking at this question, are there other ways that people can interact with the waterfront? So an element of the master plan that was included in 2021 that will continue forward are get downs, which are on the waterfront today and will be incorporated in the project in the future. And we're continuing to understand and unpack this question of to what extent can personal vessels interact with this waterfront, recognizing there's no formal or kind of like approved way for that to happen today. So that's something we'll continue to investigate.
I think I have the last question, which takes us over to the west side, and it's kind of interesting because this is a question from that side. Community board members very involved in all of this. You can't interface offline, so I'm going to read her question. How can we urge the city, the state, and the federal government to rethink the 9A roadway and to consider 9A's parking lane, to consider using a 9A parking lane, or we configured it instead of wrecking the Hudson River Park? We need more of Hudson River Park and less of 9A, and we need to maintain our quality of life. So that's a question, I guess, to everyone is, how do we work together? This again is the West Side Resiliency Task Force idea of how do we work together to really look at 9A. Is that? Army Corps.
Everybody turns to stare at Jordan.
I'm looking also at our representatives from Army Corps, because I think that's also, I know that's, it's state DOT, but is there some way that, looking at the alternatives along the west side, that all of these groups are working together to look at what could potentially be a really good opportunity in using the roadway for some of this resiliency?
There is a lot of room for coordination, and we do fully intend to coordinate on any option for reducing coastal storm risk to the area. Absolutely. One thing I would like to just mention is, in the feasibility stage, we're not going to have all the answers. And once we're looking for in a year or so, when the study is complete, we'll be looking for congressional authorization and appropriations to continue the conversation. And the biggest thing that we would be looking for from Congress is getting that project amount authorized. So we have placeholders for a lot of these funding components of the project. And that's where, in that phase, we would be looking to have those one-on-one meetings to make sure that we are doing the best for our city. We live here too. So.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that. I just kind of want to close out our program. I just want to say thank you to all of our agencies, our colleagues in government, and thank you for everyone that came tonight. I know we didn't answer everyone's submitted questions, but we answered quite a few. Again, I think this was super great. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone and for a great evening. I know the hour is running late and this was a great program. I want to kick it to our Congressman, Dan Goldman, and also our chair of CB1, Tammy and Alice, just to close out the program. Thank you so much.
I think I'm going to close by saying thank you for everybody being here. It is essential that we are all in the room. We are all hearing each other. The public engagement is great when we are in one space and everybody's at the table and we can all hear each other. That is my goal, is to make sure that all the vested stakeholders, whether you're in the water or on the land, have an opportunity to know that the meeting is happening, make sure that you get the information, and if you weren't, to be able to catch up by watching it afterwards. It is critical that we work on that type of collaboration together, which I appreciate my city and state and federal partners in helping getting that done. I want to thank everybody who's participated in the room and online tonight. I know we have a lot more questions that are stacked around me. This isn't the end, it's a continuation. So thank you.
I just want to reiterate, it's really informative and enlightening, and I think is a reflection of how much more efficient it is when we are all together, and we don't have the, BBCA, or, Battery Park Authority and the city, in different places, and we're all coordinating. And I think we can see that there's a through line here that I hope we can continue. And we're certainly eager to facilitate these discussions as it relates to resiliency and so many other issues in the district. So I really appreciate everybody coming. I appreciate those who were joined us virtually. And thank you very much for our stakeholders for being here. And we look forward to working together and continuing to collaborate. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone again.